In the heart of the forest, at the most ancient and darkest hour of the night, when the sky veiled the earth like a starless, pitch-black shroud, I was born. My name is Sylvia, and I came into being on a rare purple flower, nurtured by the Earth Mother's bounty, in a sacred place where legends whispered and no one dared to tread. My mother's eyes would hold a glint of both terror and an inexpressible miracle as she recounted that moment. The old women in the village would murmur that this birth was a sign. Some claimed it was a unique blessing from the earth, a promise of great deeds to come, while others whispered that it was a dark curse, that black clouds would descend upon the village with my arrival. But for me, there was only one truth, beyond all whispers and prophecies, the unique gift the earth had bestowed upon me, etched into my soul, my muddy hands. These hands were not merely stained with the dirt of the outer world, they were also kneaded with the soul of the earth. They didn't just physically collect grime, they held a much deeper meaning. They understood the language of plants. As I walked through the forest, I would hear the whispers of the grass beneath my feet, the deep breaths of the trees, the opening songs of the flowers. I would feel the pain of injured animals. The chirp of a bird with a broken leg would cause a deep ache within me, as if I carried that pain in my own soul. When I touched the old moss-covered trunk of a tree, I knew not only its rough bark, but also how its roots trembled deep within the earth, how it absorbed the soil's water, how it clung to life. When I touched a bird's broken wing, I felt the ache of that tiny bone, that indescribable pain in my own bones, in my own heart. This was not just touching, but the merging of souls. In my village, they called me Daughter of the Wild, sometimes with respect, sometimes with fear, but always with a distance. Because for a girl like me, so deeply intertwined with nature, fate had drawn two paths, two abysses. Either your existence would be a light that brings healing, binds wounds, saves lives. This was a path people could accept and understand. Or your power would be misunderstood, turn into fear, and you would perish in flames. This was their answer to everything they didn't know or feared. Until today, despite all my internal conflicts, I became a healer. I extended my hand to every wounded soul, every aching body in the village. I dressed wounds, brought down fevers, assisted in births, and brought peace to the dying in their last breaths. I tried to be a remedy for everyone's troubles, dedicating myself to this path. But the deep, unending suspicion in the villagers' eyes never faded. No matter how much healing I dispensed, no matter how kindly I approached, that shadow never lifted from me. Because my healing came directly from the earth, not from prayers and hymns as they were accustomed to. It came from the whispers of the soil, the essences of plants, the ancient wisdom of nature. For them, this was incomprehensible, perhaps even terrifying. Last night, far from the village, on the hillside, under the colossal, ancient oak tree that stretched towards the sky, I fell asleep in the sacred embrace of its roots. The tree's branches swayed in the wind like hands, seemingly singing me a lullaby. In my dream, an ancient and echoing voice emerged from its trunk, from the depths of the earth. Daughter, listen, the whispers of time, the pain of the earth, the tears of the sky will soon fall, watering these lands with blood. And you will either drown in those tears or you will be born from them. When I opened my eyes, still half asleep, I wrestled with the reality of the dream. From the deep fissures in the oak tree's old, cracked bark, a dark, pitch-black sap slowly oozed, as if the tree was bleeding. But this blood carried pain, not life. As the sap dripped to the ground, it changed the color of the soil, leaving black stains. Then that voice came again, this time stronger, clearer, echoing in my ears like hammers. The sky will weep soon, and you will drown in those tears. Darkness will rise, the earth will whisper, and you will either fall with it or stand against it. I shuddered. My entire body trembled, a cold shiver spreading through my very bones. Oak trees never lied. They were the memory of the world, the guardians of past and future. This was not just a dream, but a prophecy, a warning. When I returned to the village in the morning with the first rays of sunlight, everything on the surface seemed normal. Smoke rose from the village's wooden houses, and the usual rhythm of life continued. Women washed clothes in the river, children's laughter echoed in the village square, and sheep and goats grazed peacefully in the green pastures. That is until I approached the village fountain in the center of the village, known for centuries for its clear, life-giving water.
The water was not flowing clear as usual. The water coming from the fountain's tap was blood red, flowing like fresh blood. The air suddenly grew heavy, all sounds ceased. A woman approaching the fountain screamed in horror when she saw the water. "Blood! Blood is coming from the fountain! The gods are cursing us!" The village squares suddenly froze. People looked at each other in shock and fear. Then, all those fearful, suspicious eyes slowly but determinedly turned to me. The same question was in everyone's mind. Did the daughter of the wild have a hand in this? I approached the fountain, my steps heavy, my heart pounding. The villagers had formed a silent circle around me, their gazes fixed on me. The water's color resembled fresh blood, but its smell was like iron, not the familiar scent of blood. It was more a strange, earthy, slightly rotten smell coming from the depths of the roots, like a breath rising from underground. This wasn't a smell I hadn't encountered before, but I had never felt it so intense and distinct. This was not ordinary blood. It was like the earth's own blood. I dipped my fingers into the water. The coldness of the water did not extinguish the fire within me. My hands trembled, and that familiar surge of energy I felt when sensing my supernatural abilities enveloped my entire body. I felt the water whispering to me, a whisper of pain, a warning. A voice within me, the voice of my survival instinct, screamed, just like the whispers of the forest, "This curse will swallow you too. Run! Save yourself!" But I did not run. I did not flee. I did not retreat. Because this was my story, my destiny. This blood was speaking to me, and I had to listen. This was part of the curse or blessing I had carried since my birth. That night, the 3 old women of the village's sages, the guardians of ancient traditions, those souls who had always been suspicious of me, secretly came to my house. I had sensed their presence before they even knocked on my door. Their faces were ashen, and their eyes held an inexpressible fear. In their hands were dried herbs, old, worn leather pouches, and an ancient knife with a gleaming tip. The oldest, Anna Theodora, her face carved with deep lines, her eyes still holding a sharp wisdom, stepped forward. "Sylvia, the blood in the fountain is a warning for you, for your power. These lands will soon suffer great pain, and you will either be the source of this pain or its savior." Anna Theodora placed the knife on the wooden table with trembling hands. The tip of the knife glinted in the candlelight. Her words hung in the air. The choice was mine. Once again, my destiny had come to a crossroads. I would either leave the village, escape this curse, condemn myself to eternal loneliness, living like a fugitive, or I would solve the secret of this blood, delve into its origin, confront it, perhaps condemning myself to be branded a witch. I chose the third path. I neither fled nor accepted. This was a challenge, both to the village's suspicions and to fate itself. I slowly reached for the table. With a trembling but resolute hand, I took the knife. I felt the cold metal in my palm. I took a deep breath. Then, without hesitation, I cut my palm. Not with a sword, not with a knife, but with this symbolic act of writing my own destiny. When my blood dripped on the earth, when the first drop fell, it was not just a small drop. The entire ground shook, as if the earth itself had come alive. The roof of my cabin creaked, the lamps swayed, the trees outside rustled. This was not just an earthquake, it was a sign of nature, of the earth merging with me. At that moment, I felt my blood merge with the soul of the earth. And at that moment, I understood this was just the beginning, the first sign of my destiny. I, Sylvia, was neither a healer nor a witch. I was the earth itself.
When I saw the blood flowing from the fountain, the first thing I felt wasn't that common, instinctive fear. No, it was more a strange sense of familiarity, as if something I had long awaited but didn't know what it was had finally appeared before me. The water's consistency was thick. It felt almost like jelly as it ran through my fingers. Its color, rather than the bright, vibrant red of freshly cut meat, was closer to the rusty brownish hue that leaves take on in autumn as they dry. It was as if it was the earth's own blood, a blood carrying the weariness of years and ages. As I dipped my fingertips into the crimson water, the coldness of the water suddenly warmed, trembling slightly in my palm as if alive, as if there was a secret life within it. Each drop matched the blood in my veins, forming a connection with me. The villagers' gazes burned my back like dry grass left in the sun. Their whispers reached my ears like poisonous arrows carried by the wind. "The daughter of the wild is at it again," they said, their voices laced with fear and hatred. This curse came with her. Women nervously pulled their children closer, as if my mere presence could contaminate their tiny souls. Old Marla, the village's grumpiest, most bigoted woman, stepped towards me, brandishing a wooden ladle like a staff, flames burning in her eyes. "Get out of here, Stain. Go with your curse. Don't defile us too." Every word of hers was like a thorn piercing my heart. At that moment, I realized I was neither a healer nor a human in their eyes. I was merely a threat, a calamity. That night, before my cabin door was even knocked upon, I sensed their presence. The moon cast a pale light across the sky, and the forest shadows lengthened. 3 old women, the eldest in the village, mysterious figures, appeared at my doorstep. Wrapped tightly in their gray cloaks, their faces shrouded in shadows, they seemed to have emerged directly from the night itself. Their arrival wasn't an ordinary visit. It was like a prophecy, a harbinger of fate. The tallest, Anna Theodora, her face etched with wrinkles like a map, her eyes holding ancient secrets, stepped forward and extended to me a coal-black, smooth stone she held in her palm. The stone glimmered faintly, even in the dim light. "Take this, Sylvia," she said, her voice like the rustle of dry leaves. "This is an ancient relic. The last girl like you also carried this. This stone will both protect you and guide you." The stone warmed instantly as it touched my palm, burning my skin with the energy it radiated. I instinctively shook my hand, but the stone seemed glued to my skin. It wouldn't fall. The second woman, her face half-shadowed, spoke in a muffled voice, as if it came from deep within the earth. "The fountain was just a warning, daughter of the wild. A whisper. The real thing is yet to come. The path of your true trial, your true curse, your true blessing, has not yet begun." The third, the shortest and oldest, leaned towards me.
Her eyes were closed, as if she were looking inward. She raised her hand and touched my forehead with her cold, bony fingers. At that moment, an explosion occurred in my mind, as if lightning had struck, thousands of whispers converging. Images flowed rapidly, like the surging waters of a river, blending together. A broken crown, the fall of an ancient kingdom, a burned forest, screaming trees, everything pitch black. A bleeding sky, a catastrophe covering the whole world like a red shroud. And amidst those images, I saw a figure, a familiar yet alien face. Me, but not me. A wild and powerful woman with strange ancient markings on my face, as if sprung from the earth itself. It was as if I was seeing my future, but this future did not belong to the Sylvia I knew. This vision was not just a sight, but a chaos of feelings, regret, power, sorrow, and an indescribable loneliness. When I came to, I was breathless. The women were gone, my door was left ajar, and the cold forest wind swept in. Only a black stone's imprint remained on my left palm, embedded beneath my skin like a tattoo. When I touched it, I felt the same warmth as the blood from the fountain. This warmth radiating from the stone both burned and empowered me. The stone was no longer just a relic. It was a part of me, merged with me, mingled with my blood. The next morning, with the first rays of sunlight, I saw the crowd gathered in the village square. Whispers had turned into shouts. Old Marla, shaking a bundle of dried sage, her voice trembling but resolute, cried out, "The day the girl leaves, the curse will leave too. This village will be cleansed." The others nodded in agreement, their eyes a mix of hatred and fear. They held shovels, rakes, and burning torches, as if they were organizing a hunting party. Behind me, the village fountain was still spewing blood, the bloody water flowing onto the path, staining the earth red. This sight only fueled their fears further. At that moment, I understood that I had to leave. I had no other choice. I had to escape their hatred and ignorance. But I understood something else. This was not just an escape, but a call. The oak tree's prophecy, the words of the three old women, the warmth of the stone in my palm, all were pulling me toward somewhere. I clasped my muddy hands tightly, felt my connection to the earth, and began to walk towards the embrace of the forest. I ignored the sound of stones thrown behind me, shouts, screams. I was no longer a part of the village. As I reached the shadows of the first trees in the forest, the stone in my left palm began to throb, as if a pulse beat within it. It seemed to be responding to something or someone, acting as a guide. The path before me split into two. One led into the misty depths of the swamp, the other to the cloud-reaching peaks of the hills. Both paths led to the unknown. Both were dangerous. But I chose the third path, where there was no beaten track. I would move through the trees, leaving no trace. Because now I knew, this journey hadn't just begun. Long ago, the moment I was born on that purple orchid, the lines of my destiny had been drawn. And this journey would lead me to the secret of the broken crown and the burned forest I had seen in the prophecy. The forest swallowed me, swallowed Sylvia. It literally drew me in, trapping me within its ancient green heart in an endless embrace. As I moved through the trees, each step sank into the softness of the earth, the whispering bed of rotten leaves, while branches gently closed behind me like conscious, living beings, erasing my tracks and making the path I had taken forgotten. It was as if the forest breathed with me, moved with me, vibrated with my presence. Even the sun's rays struggled to filter through this dense, thick canopy and reach the ground. Everywhere was covered in a dim, mysterious twilight,
with the shadow of night prevailing even in the middle of the day. The air carried the heavy, earthy scent of decaying leaves, damp soil, and millennia-old secrets. This scent enveloped not just my nose, but my soul, drawing me deeper into the forest. The black stone in my left palm continued to throb ceaselessly with the heat of my blood. With every pulse, a faint purple light seeped from beneath my skin, as if the stone's heart was beating, and wherever this light touched the ground, tiny, luminous flowers of a kind I had never seen before bloomed. These flowers would normally never be found in this season or in this forest. They sprouted from the earth like miracles, existing with me. Each one was proof of the bond between me and the stone, the power of the earth, this unique ability granted to me by nature. Everywhere I stepped, I left a trail of purple flowers behind me, as if the forest was acknowledging my acceptance. After hours of this silent, isolated walk, I reached the point where the familiar texture of the normal forest ended and the shadow forest began. This place was different, an entirely different realm. A door to an unknown reality had opened. The bark of the trees was a deep, ink-colored blue, almost black, and their surfaces faintly shimmered, even in the moonlight, as if containing a hidden light. The leaves, rather than a vibrant green, were silver, glittering in the moonlight, making a dry, metallic sound as they rustled in the wind, like a warning or a song. In the air there were whispers fluttering like remnants of ancient songs, forgotten prayers, ancient prophecies. It was as if the forest itself whispered all the memories, all the secrets of the past into my ear. Every leaf, every branch, a language. The atmosphere was heavy, electric. Breathing was even difficult. It was as if time itself had slowed here. Everything was part of a dream realm. The line between reality and illusion blurred. This forest was not just a place. It was a living, breathing, thinking, perhaps even dreaming entity with its own rules, its own secrets. On the first night in the shadow forest, as even the pale light of the moon couldn't penetrate this dense canopy, and I tried to sleep amidst the moss at the base of a rock, in the encompassing darkness, he came. I felt his presence first. He settled over me like a cold shadow. I felt a slight weight on my shoulders, then as the whispers in the air intensified. From the shadows, as if molded from the night itself, he slowly rose and stood before me. He was not human. His form constantly shifted, changing shape like a liquid smoke moment by moment, one moment rising like a tree, the next collapsing to the ground like an animal. I couldn't precisely say what he was. Perhaps a spirit, an ancient entity, perhaps a forgotten god, a master formed from shadows, the soul of this forest. His eyes were two black, bottomless pits, but when I looked into them, I saw the glint of galaxies, swirling stars, distant nebulae, as if the entire cosmos was hidden in these two voids, the secrets of the universe concealed within them. This entity appeared to me neither as a threat nor as a savior, just an observer, a waiting one, a spirit from the eternity of time. "Sylvia," he said. The tone of his voice resembled the centuries-long drip of water on stone. It had a calm, ancient, and deeply resonating timbre, as if it came from within me. "I was waiting for you. I knew you would set foot on these lands, embark on this path. The earth whispered your arrival to me." I stood up, pushing aside the weariness and fear in my body, but I didn't try to flee. An irresistible urge within me told me I had to face him, as if my destiny was tied to this moment.
Why were you waiting for me? Who are you? Why is this forest bleeding?" "I am the memory of this forest, its living soul, and you are the last healer to revive the dead. You are the one who will awaken the sleeping, bring back the lost. The moment your blood merged with the earth's blood, this ancient secret was revealed. The dormant power awakened. The bleeding of the fountain was just the beginning. The earth has begun to lose something, and your mission is to heal it." These words hung in the air, echoing in my ears, shaking my soul. To revive the dead? This was a claim that I couldn't believe, couldn't accept. I couldn't believe that an ordinary village girl like me could possess such immense power. The stone in my palm instantly burned with such pain that I knelt, as if all my veins were on fire. It was as if the stone confirmed this prophecy, proclaiming this truth with its very existence, transferring its power into my body. The shadow entity leaned towards me. His bottomless eyes seemed to read my entire soul, seeing every hesitation within me. "You can refuse this, daughter of muddy hands. You can return to your village and wait for those who insist on their ignorance to burn you. They will never understand your power. They will only fear it. For them, you are just a witch. Or you can accept your power. Embrace your destiny. Step into the reality of this prophecy. But remember, every choice comes with a price. Your burden will be heavy, your path difficult, but you will not walk alone."
My left hand, my burning palm with the stone, lifted on its own, as if a magnet pulled it into the air. The wound created by the stone was no longer just a cut. It had taken on a living form in my skin. It had become a small mouth with purple lips, and that mouth, surprisingly, spoke with my own voice. But its voice was not mine. It was more like the voice of the earth, the forest, the stone itself, filled with the wisdom of thousands of years. "The choice is yours, daughter of muddy hands, to reject your destiny or to create it. This journey will show you who you are. It will carry you to where you belong." That night, as I slept with the whispers of that talking mouth in my dream, I saw a dead girl. Her face was pale, her eyes closed, but there was a strange peace about her, as if she was in an eternal sleep. She slowly turned to me. The face I saw was familiar, too familiar even. It was my face. When her eyes opened, there was no sparkle of stars within them, but a deep, dark sorrow, yet also a call, a hope. It was as if she was a part of my past, or a ghost from my future, a reflection of my destiny. From that girl's eyes, I felt an endless pain, and at the same time, boundless potential. This dream was not just a vision, but also a warning. If I used my power, could I change this girl's fate? Or was this my own end, the completion of a cycle? When I woke, the air in the shadow forest had changed. It no longer held me back. It had begun to clear a path for me, as if a door was opening before me. The trees, as if showing me respect, willingly drew back on either side, revealing an ancient stone-paved path before me. This path stretched deep into the earth, drawing me towards the unknown. Each of the stones, like the one in my palm, bore those small, purple-lipped talking mouths. They whispered to me, with echoing, ancient voices. "Come, Sylvia," they whispered, their voices rising from the depths of the earth like a siren song. "Come and see. Come and learn. Come and embrace your destiny. This is where you are meant to be."
I didn't know where I was going. Where would this path lead? To victory or to annihilation? To an end or to a new beginning? I didn't know, but I couldn't turn back now. To turn back would mean abandoning everything I knew, everything I had found. My destiny was calling me, and I could do nothing but heed that call. As my feet pressed onto the stones of the path, a new, unshakable resolve blossomed within me, curiosity and determination replacing fear. This journey was not just an external adventure, but also a journey into the depths of my soul.
The ancient, stone-paved path drew me deeper into the heart of the shadow forest. Each of my steps echoed in the damp, dark depths of the earth, as if I were walking on the veins of the world. The small, purple-lipped mouths appearing on each stone along the path whispered to me, slowly, disjointedly, yet insistently, more, deeper. Don't be afraid, he is waiting for you. Their voices were like an ancient, earthy melody rising from within the earth, imprinting themselves on my mind. With every step, the living mouth in my palm began to ache more. It was as if its teeth were digging into my skin, tearing at my flesh, but this pain was an inevitable call, pushing me further. The flow of blood in my veins quickened, and a humming began in my ears. My whole body trembled, but I didn't stop. To stop would be to betray this journey, this destiny. Where the path finally ended, an ancient stone circle of massive, moss-covered rocks appeared. The stones were so large that they seemed to have been placed by giants, covered with centuries of moss and the dust of time. In the very center of the circle was a seemingly bottomless pit filled with dark, ink-colored water. The surface of the water was so smooth that, despite the overcast, starless sky above, it reflected the glint of thousands of stars. But these were not real stars from the sky. These were ancient, unknown stars, shining with their own light, coming from the depths of the water, perhaps from another dimension. This moment overturned everything I knew. It was at that very moment that the shadow entity, the spirit of the shadow forest, that master with bottomless eyes, reappeared. This time, I could see him more clearly. The veil of mist had lifted. He was in human form, but his body was neither flesh nor bone. His skin was covered in cracks like tree bark, his veins prominent like tree roots on the surface. On his face, there were traces that might have once belonged to humanity, but now he resembled the forest itself, ancient and weary. He extended his hand, his fingers thin and long, and pointed to the living mouth in my palm. His presence had weighed down the air. All sounds had ceased. "Call your first dead," he said, his voice like the slow drip of water on stone, each word vibrating through my soul. "Call her here, to this water, to this earth." "How?" I asked, my voice trembling with fear and astonishment. I can't do that. I can't revive anyone. I am just a healer." "Touch the water with your blood," the shadow entity said patiently, but there was an authority in his voice, an irresistible command. "And speak her name, her true name, her real name." I knelt, my knees touching the mossy stones. My left hand, the palm with the speaking mouth, I plunged without hesitation into the water in the pit. The water was not icy cold as I expected. On the contrary, it began to burn the moment it touched my skin, as if I were touching hot iron. I groaned in pain. It was so sharp that my entire body trembled, but I didn't pull away. Once again, that irresistible urge within me forced me to continue.
I closed my eyes. In my mind, the pale-faced girl I had seen in my dream, that mysterious being who bore my face, appeared. And at that moment, I felt that I knew her name, as if it whispered from my heart. Lira, I whispered, each syllable of the name breaking from my soul and echoing in the air. Lira, awaken. The water suddenly began to foam, boiling violently. The star reflections on the water's surface gathered and began to swirl, forming a whirlpool. Slowly, at the center of that whirlpool, an indistinct shape formed, then became more defined. Then a slender, pale hand slowly rose from the water, like a ghost, and grasped my wrist. It was cold, yet strangely familiar. I screamed, unable to stop myself. It was a scream mixed with astonishment, fear, and wonder. I struggled to free my wrist, but the grip was stronger than I expected, as if it wanted to pull me into the depths of the water. But the shadow entity, with a whisper, signaled me to touch that cold hand. He spoke to me with his eyes, with my mind. With my trembling hand, my right palm, I touched that cold hand, and instantly something began to flow from me to her, life to her, energy to her, then from her to me, knowledge to me, an ancient wisdom to me. My eyes blurred, lightning flashed in my mind as if thousands of years of knowledge were pouring into my mind at once. For a brief moment, it was as if I myself had become a part of the water, had become the earth itself. Then, Lira stood before me. She had emerged from the water in the center of the stone circle, her wet hair clinging to her shoulders, her clothes soaked. Her face was more real than I had seen in my dream, but still pale. Her eyes were closed, as if she had just awakened from a deep sleep. But she was breathing. Her chest rose and fell, her lips slightly parted. She had truly come back. The shadow entity briefly glanced at Lira, then turned his back, as if his task was complete. The first resurrection hurts this much, but with each passing day, with each resurrection, the next ones will be easier. Your blood has now found a new path. Lira's eyes slowly opened, but the eyes I saw were not human eyes. They were all white, with no trace of iris or retina within them. They were like drops of moonlight. She reached out to me and caressed the living, aching mouth on my left palm, the wound with tiny purple lips. Her touch was cold, yet gentle. "Thank you, sister," she said, her voice like the softness of water, but also echoing like an ancient song. There was both joy in her voice, the happiness of finding life, and sorrow, the sadness of leaving the place she belonged. At that moment, I understood. This was not just a blessing, it was a heavy burden, because Lira's resurrection must have a price. Nature gave nothing for free, and I would pay that price eventually, perhaps with my soul, perhaps with my humanity. This power was not just a gift, but also an infinite responsibility. The shadow forest began to make way for us as we moved forward. The trees pulled back as if bowing in respect. Lira, like a small child, took my hand. Her touch was cold, but it gave me strength. "We must go now," she said, her voice hurried. "Time is short. The village fountain is still bleeding, and there are more dead there, more suffering souls waiting to awaken." I turned back for a final look at the stone circle. On the surface of the water, there were now two reflections, mine and Lira's. My reflection appeared tired but determined, but with one difference. Lira's reflection still looked dead. her eyes closed like a ghost newly emerged from the water. Did this indicate that the resurrection was not complete, or that her soul had not fully returned yet? This was a new mystery. We began to walk deeper into the shadow forest. The mouth in my palm this time was not aching or throbbing. Instead, it was smiling, as if enjoying this new power. My destiny was now sealed. I, Sylvia, was the healer of the land, who revives the dead.
We walked for days, emerging from the depths of the shadow forest, moving towards the familiar lands of the village. Lira's footprints appeared faintly on the damp surface of the earth, but the dewdrops on them remained unbroken, undisturbed. It was as if she was both in this world, walking with me on this physical plane, and yet not. She floated between two dimensions, like a ghost, a memory. Her presence was felt beside me like a whisper, without weight, but intensely palpable. The living mouth in my palm no longer fell silent. It spoke constantly, its whispers imprinting themselves on my mind. You can do more. You can call more. They are waiting for you. You are their key. Each word was like a call to the power within me, yet also gnawing at my very being. Finally, as we reached the village's borders, that familiar and terrifying sight unfolded before my eyes once more. The fountain was still bleeding, flowing like a crimson, dark river spreading into the village lands. But now the situation was even more dire. It wasn't just the water, but the village itself that was bleeding. Red, viscous oozes seeped from under the wooden doors of houses, trickling down their walls. Dark red drops, the source of that rusty, earthy smell rising from the depths of the soil, seeped from the stones around the wellheads, as if every cell of the village was bleeding. From the trunks of the trees, like fresh wounds, dark red solidified sap dripped, falling to the earth. The village was like a living wound, a bleeding monster. In the village square, under the pale sunlight, we saw the gathered crowd. Their faces held fear, anger, and despair. Old Marla stood before the crowd, sickles and pitchforks raised threateningly, her eyes fixed at us. Her gaze was filled with hatred. "You've returned, Stain. You brought the curse with you to destroy our village completely." The other villagers nodded in agreement with their livid faces, some stepping back with trembling steps. For them, I was merely a harbinger of disaster. Lira stepped forward from beside me. Her steps were light, her presence almost a whisper. The complete whiteness of her eyes sent another shiver through the villagers. Some stumbled back, some made the sign of the cross. Lira's voice was soft like the gurgle of water, but each word cut through the air like a sharp blade. "The curse is not from us," she said. "It is from you. This blood is your unburied dead, the souls you forgot, whose pains you did not ease." There was a silence, so deep, so suffocating, that even the whispers of the wind ceased. Everyone held their breath, crushed under the weight of Lira's words. Then that ancient, terrifying moment came. The earth began to tremble, a slight tremor. Then it grew steadily more violent, as if something was awakening beneath the ground. From beneath the fountain, from cracks in the earth, pale, muddy, dead hands burst forth. 1, 2, 5, 10, hundreds of hands. First fingers, then wrists, then arms. All the dead the village had forgotten for centuries, buried deep in the earth, slowly but resolutely emerged from the soil beneath that bloody fountain. They were resurrecting. Rising from the earth, these figures, resembling fresh corpses more than skeletons, looked around silently with blank expressions in their eyes. Old Marla's eyes widened, all color drained from her face, as if she had seen a ghost. The sickle in her hand fell to the ground.
From her lips, a disbelieving whisper, carrying the pain of years, escaped. "Mother?" she whispered, her voice broken. Before her stood her mother, whom she had lost years ago, newly emerged from the earth with that familiar expression on her face. But now her skin was muddy and her eyes were empty. Her mother's hands were extended towards her in the air, as if seeking an embrace. The village square suddenly filled with cries of astonishment and horror. Everyone saw their lost ones, their loved ones, their hated ones, their forgotten ones. All had returned. I looked at the living mouth in my palm. It was no longer a wound, but a gate, like a passage to another world. Its small purple lips parted, and it gave me its final whisper with the voice of the earth and of fate. Now the choice is yours. You can keep them alive. You can give them new life. Or you can sacrifice yourself. You can pay the price of this curse. Lira turned to me. The whiteness of her eyes held a wisdom even amidst the horror of the entire scene. Her voice was calm, as if she knew this moment was coming. "The price must be paid, sister. Every resurrection, every life has a cost. Nature finds its balance." I knew. In the deepest part of my being, I had known this since the moment I was born. I was that cost. I was the price of this power the earth had given me. This was my destiny, my final sacrifice. I walked to the fountain, my steps resolute, without any hesitation within me. I looked at the bloody water. In my reflection on the surface, I saw only Lira now, her pale face looking back at me. I was gone. It was as if my soul, my being, had been erased from my reflection. Perhaps I, Sylvia, had never truly existed. I was merely a tool, a carrier of this power. I plunged my hands into the water. The coldness and warmth of the bloody water enveloped my body simultaneously. "Take me," I said, my voice firm, like a prayer, a farewell. "Release them. Let them find peace with me." The water instantly stilled. That violent frothing ceased. Its crimson color vanished at once, as if it had never existed. All the dead in the village, those figures emerging from the earth, instantly turned to dust, including Lira. Their bodies turned to thin ashes, carried by the wind, mingling with the earth, finding peace. The bloodstains vanished instantly from the walls of houses, the trunks of the trees, the streets of the village. And from the village fountain, just as centuries ago, clear, clean, life-giving water began to flow, as if nothing had ever happened. The villagers looked around in bewilderment. Some cried, some cheered with joy, and some silently stared at the ground. Old Marla knelt, weeping. What happened? "Where is Sylvia?" she whispered, her voice broken. She no longer saw me as a witch, but merely as a lost soul. I was no longer there. I was not physically present, but I was everywhere. In the earth, in every root, in every grain. In the roots of the trees, in their ancient wisdom, in their whispers. In the water of the fountain, in those clear, life-giving drops. With those I had resurrected, I was now free. I had given my own existence back to the earth and to life. A legend is still told in the village about the daughter of the muddy hands. Some say she fled to escape her curse. Some say she was burned for being a witch. But only the shadow forest knows the truth. And there, at the end of the stone-paved path, in that sacred place, a small purple flower blooms, just like the flower Sylvia was born on. Every morning, dewdrops appear on it, glistening with the first rays of the sun, just like tears. In an eternal cycle, Sylvia's legacy continues to live in the heart of the earth. The end.